The rain had stopped, but the city still smelled like heartbreak with asphalt and smoke. I sat in my car outside her apartment, my phone glowing on the dashboard. One message. 8 words. You're too good for me. That wasn't kindness. That was pity dressed as mercy. I stared at the text until my reflection blurred in the screen. My throat felt tight. 2 years together? And that's how she ended it? No call, no tears. Just a line she probably copied from some breakup blog. I hit call anyway. She didn't answer. Coward, I muttered, gripping the steering wheel. My knuckles turned white. You couldn't even say it to my face. My phone buzzed again. Mason. Where are you? He asked, his voice tired. Outside her building? Liam, no. Don't. She's not worth it. I laughed under my breath. You said that last time too. You didn't listen then either. This time's different, I said quietly. This time, she ended it for real. He sighed. Then drive away. Don't humiliate yourself. I'm not going up there, I lied. When the call ended, I stayed still. My heart beat like a hammer against my ribs. Every memory replayed like a cruel montage, her laugh, her perfume, her promises. You're my safe place, Liam. Funny, safe places don't collapse like this. I finally stepped out of the car. The air was cold and sharp. I looked up at her window, 3rd floor, second from the left. The light was still on. I could see a shadow move behind the curtain. Her. I called again. Still no answer. Amelia, I whispered, as if saying her name could summon an apology. The door opened suddenly. She stepped out, phone in hand, wearing the same gray hoodie I bought her. For a second, our eyes met. She froze, Liam, she said, surprised. I tried calling. I saw. You shouldn't be here. Yeah, well, you shouldn't have lied to me for 2 years. Her lips pressed together. Don't do this. Do what? I asked. Ask why the girl I loved ended us with a text message. She looked away. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want the guilt? I shot back. There's a difference. Exhaled. You wouldn't understand. Then make me. Oh. I stepped closer. Make me understand, Amelia. You owe me that much. I don't owe you anything, she said sharply. That one hit harder than it should have. For a moment, I just stood there, rain dripping from my hair, staring at her like I was seeing a stranger. I laughed bitterly. You really meant it, didn't you? Every word you said tonight. She hesitated. Liam, this isn't working. We're too different. Different. I asked, choking on disbelief. Is that what you told him too? Her face paled. What are you talking about? I smiled without warmth. The guy from your office. The one you said was just a friend? She froze. Silence stretched between us. The wind carried the truth before she could speak. So it's true, I said softly. You were seeing him while you were still with me. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, I demanded. She shook her head. I was confused, okay? He understood things you didn't. I never meant to hurt you. Never meant to. I stopped myself, laughing hollowly. You studied people for your psychology project, Amelia. You used me as a test subject, didn't you? Love, loyalty, trust just data to you. Her eyes widened. Who told you that? You did, I said coldly. Every time you lied. She looked down. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Far? I stepped closer until she had to look at me. You took everything I had and turned it into a thesis paper. That's not far. That's cruel, she whispered. I didn't publish it. Congratulations, I said dryly. You still destroyed me. Tears filled her eyes. You think I don't feel guilty? I think guilt's easy when you've already done the damage. We stood there in silence. The only sound was the wind and her shaky breathing. Finally, she said, Please leave. I nodded slowly. I will. She looked relieved until I added, but not before you hear this. Hush. She met my gaze again. For the first time, she looked scared. You played with my heart, I said quietly, every word cutting through the night. But now, I'll play with your fate. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? Don't worry, I said with a faint smile. You'll find out soon enough. I turned around before she could answer. My heart pounded, but it wasn't from pain anymore. It was from clarity. When I got back into my car, Mason called again. Did you talk to her? Yeah, and... She ended it. He sighed. You okay? I stared at her apartment one last time. The light in her window flickered off. No, I said, but I will be. As I drove away, her words echoed in my head like a curse. You're too good for me. Maybe I was, but soon she'd wish I wasn't. Because that night, under the fading streetlight, my heartbreak turned into something sharper. A promise. A plan. She played with my heart. Now it's my turn to play with hers. The world kept moving, but I didn't. Days bled into nights, nights into something colder. My phone stayed silent, my blinds closed. The only thing louder than the quiet was my own mind. Mason showed up anyway, out, as always. He didn't knock. He barged in. Jesus, Liam, he muttered. It smells like depression in here. It smells better than betrayal, I said without looking up. He dropped a bag of takeout on the table. You've been locked up for weeks, man. You can't just rot here. I'm not rotting, I said. I'm thinking. He laughed bitterly. You mean replaying everything until it eats you alive? I stared at the floor. She faked it all, Mason. Every kiss, every I love you. All of it was a setup for her stupid psychology project. I was her test subject. He sat across from me. You told me 10 times already. You don't get it? I said quietly. She studied me. She took notes about how I reacted when she cried, when she smiled, when she said she loved me. None of it was real. Not one goddamn thing. Mason sighed. Yeah, it's messed up, but you've got to move on. I can't move on from being an experiment. He looked at me for a long time. So what's the plan? Sit here forever? I stood, pacing. No, I'm done being the victim. She wanted data? I'll give her results, Liam. She thought she could play me, measure me, define me. But she forgot one thing. What's that? That I know her better than she knows herself. He frowned. You sound insane. Maybe, I said. But insanity's just another reaction worth studying, right? That's what she told me once. Every emotion is data. Well, I've got plenty of data now. Mason leaned back. You're talking about revenge. I met his eyes. I'm talking about justice. He shook his head. No, man. You're talking about self-destruction. I ignored him and walked to my desk. Papers, screenshots, and old messages covered the surface like evidence in a case file. Her words stared back at my smiles through text bubbles, lies wrapped in heart emojis. You kept all that? He asked quietly. Every word I said, every photo, every secret she ever told me. Why? Because she built her game on my emotions. I'm building mine on hers. He rubbed his forehead. You're scaring me, bro. You warned me once. I said that she wasn't worth it. You were right. But now it's not about her being worth it. It's about me being done pretending I wasn't broken. Liam, don't interrupt me. My voice cracked for the first time. You know what hurts most? She cried in front of me, Mason. Fake tears. Real enough to make me believe I mattered. She recorded it all for her notes. Subject shows high empathy. Overreacts to partner distress. That's what she wrote. Overreacts? He was silent. I laughed bitterly. I thought I was loving her. Turns out I was performing for her experiment. Then stop performing now, he said softly. Don't let her win twice. She already won once, I muttered. But I'm rewriting the ending. He stood up, frustrated. You think hurting her is going to fix anything? I don't want to fix it. I looked up at him. I want her to feel it, he sighed. You're crossing a line? Maybe that's what needs to happen. She made me question everything, my choices, my emotions, my worth. Now it's her turn. You're talking like someone I don't know, he said quietly. Good, I replied. Because the old me died the night she hit send. He stared at me, helpless. Don't ruin yourself for revenge. I looked down at the open notebook on the desk, my handwriting under hers. 2 different worlds colliding. I'm not ruining myself, I whispered. I'm becoming who she deserves. He shook his head. You sound like her experiment worked. I smiled faintly. Maybe it did, but she won't like the result. Mason grabbed his jacket. I can't watch you go down this road. Then don't, I said. I need to finish what she started. He hesitated at the door. You're not the same Liam I knew. I know, I said quietly. That's the point. When he left, silence returned. But this time, it didn't hurt. It felt like focus. I looked around my dark apartment, walls plastered with reminders of what she'd done. Her smile, her lies, her data. All mine now. I picked up her last text again. You're too good for me, I whispered back. Not anymore. They say time heals. I say time hides. Months passed, but I didn't heal. I just learned how to wear my pain better. The man in the mirror wasn't the same one who once begged for answers. My hair was shorter, my voice steadier, my eyes colder. Every scar had turned into a weapon. When I stepped back into the corporate world, people didn't see heartbreak, they saw ambition. Ethan, my new business partner, was the first to notice the shift. You've changed, he said one morning, as we reviewed a client pitch. Change keeps people guessing, I replied, fixing my tie. He grinned. Whatever happened before, I'd say it worked in your favor. You look like someone who doesn't lose anymore, I smirked. That's the plan. He didn't know what I really meant. No one did. Behind every calm word, every calculated smile was a blueprint for retribution. I wasn't rushing. Revenge wasn't about speed. It was about precision. Amelia had taught me that when the invitation arrived at charity gala hosted by her company, didn't hesitate. Fate had opened the door. All I had to do was walk through it. Ethan noticed the gleam in my eyes. You seem unusually motivated for a charity event. Just reconnecting with old acquaintances, I said. He laughed. I'll drink to that. The night of the gala, I walked in wearing the sharpest suit I owned. The air smelled like champagne and money. The kind of place Amelia loved. Graceful, full of eyes and lies. And then I saw her. She was across the room. Radiant as ever, talking too much and laughing too loud. But there was something new, hesitation in her smile, uncertainty in her posture. Maybe time hadn't been kind to her either. Olivia, her closest friend, spotted me first. Liam, she said, her eyes widening. Wow. You look different? Better? I asked, smiling lightly. She nodded. Stronger. Amelia's here too, by the way, I noticed. Her gaze lingered on me. You two never really got closure, did you? I tilted my head. Closure's just another word for unfinished business. Before she could reply, Amelia turned around and froze. For a moment, the room disappeared. Just her eyes meeting mine, shock melting into awkward composure. She walked toward me slowly, clutching her glass like it was armor. Liam, she said, forcing a smile. It's been, what, a year? Almost, I said. You look well? So do you. She studied me, as if searching for the version of me she once knew. You seem different. Maybe I finally learned how to play the game, I said softly. She laughed nervously. Still dramatic, I see. Only when it's worth it. There was a long pause. Her eyes flickered with something curiosity, maybe guilt. I didn't expect to see you here, she said. I go where opportunity is, I replied. And tonight seems full of it. Ethan joined us, shaking Amelia's hand. You two know each other? Old friends, she said quickly. Something like that, I added. Ethan smiled and moved off to greet someone else. The silence between us was thick. Amelia finally broke it. So, how have you been? I looked right at her. Learning how people play games, I said. Letting the words hang, and how to win them. Her smile faltered. I didn't mean to don't, I said quietly. We both know what you meant. She looked away, embarrassed. I was young, stupid, I replied. You were curious? You wanted to see how far someone could fall for you. That's not fair. Neither was what you did. For a second, her eyes glistened. I'm sorry, Liam. You helped me evolve. Ow. I watched her swallow hard. The apology she wanted to give wouldn't fix anything. And the forgiveness she hoped for didn't exist. Olivia appeared beside her, sensing the tension. Everything okay here? Perfect, I said, smiling smoothly. We were just catching up, right, Amelia murmured. Before I left, I leaned close enough for only her to hear. You once told me emotions are predictable patterns. I wonder if guilt fits in that theory too. Her breath caught. I stepped back, offered a polite nod, and walked away. Across the room, Ethan clapped me on the shoulder. She looked like she saw a ghost. I smiled. Maybe she did, he laughed. Whatever that was, it worked. You're officially the most mysterious guy here. Good, I said quietly. Mystery keeps people guessing. As the night went on, I caught Amelia's gaze more than once. Every time she looked away first, that's when I knew the game had restarted. Only this time, I wasn't the one being played. It started small accidental meetings that weren't accidents. A business conference here, a charity dinner there. Every time, Amelia's eyes widened just a little more, as if the universe was teasing her with déjà vu. But I didn't push. I waited. Let her curiosity work for me. The key to control isn't force, it's patience. At one of those meetings, she approached me during a break, clutching her coffee like a nervous habit. Twice in a month, she said. If I didn't know better, I'd think you're following me. I smiled. Maybe we just run in the same circles now. She studied me. You've changed. I hear that a lot. Her voice softened. I didn't mean it in a bad way. You just seem distant. Distance is healthy, I said. Keeps people from tripping over old mistakes. No. You're still angry, I shrugged. You assume I care enough to be? Her expression fell. Liam, don't, I said quietly. You don't owe me explanations. The truth was I wanted her to try. Every word, every apology was another thread pulling her closer to the web I was spinning. A few days later, she texted first. Hey, it was nice seeing you again. I waited 2 hours before replying. Likewise, she replied instantly. Maybe we could talk sometime. I didn't answer that night. Or the next. I wanted her uncertainty to grow roots. At lunch the next week, Ethan noticed me smirking at my phone. Who's got your attention? He asked. No one, I said. Just an old story trying to rewrite itself. He raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerous. Only for one of us. That evening, Olivia found me outside the venue, leaning against my car. I heard you've been spending time around Amelia again, she said. I looked at her. And she's different now, Olivia said carefully. You hurt her too. I laughed softly. I hurt her? She regrets what she did, Olivia said. She's not the same girl you remember. Broken people love pretending they've changed, I said. It makes the guilt easier to wear. She's not pretending, Liam, Olivia insisted. She's lost friends, opportunities. She's been through her own mess, and she knows what karma feels like. Olivia frowned. You're not looking for closure. You're looking for control. Maybe they're the same thing, I said. She crossed her arms. If you still cared about her, I don't. Then why are you doing this? I didn't answer. Because I didn't have to. Later that week, Amelia called. I let it ring twice before picking up. Hey, she said softly. I didn't expect you to answer. I almost didn't. Still keeping score? She asked, trying to sound playful. Just keeping balance, I said. She was quiet for a moment. Can we start over? Maybe as friends? Friends? I echoed. That's a generous word. I'm serious, Liam. I miss talking to you. I know I messed up, but... She hesitated. You were the only person who ever really saw me. Maybe that's the problem, I said. You only liked being seen when it served you. That's not fair, she whispered. Neither were your experiments. Her silence said enough. Then she sighed. Maybe I deserve that, I said. But guilt doesn't fix anything. It just lingers until it finds company. You sound cold, she murmured. I learned from the best. When the call ended, I stared at her name glowing on my screen. For the first time, I saw not love or pain, but leverage. Each message she sent, each apology she offered, was another step down the path I had built. She didn't realize she wasn't leading the conversation anymore. I was. Ethan noticed the change in me at work. "You're quieter lately," he said. "But you look like a man with a plan." "I am," I replied. "And plans work best when people underestimate you." He laughed. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "You won't," I said with a grin. "You're not part of the experiment." That night, another message arrived from her. "Thinking about you today." I stared at it for a long time before replying. "Be careful what you think about. Some memories bite back." I didn't hit send right away. I just watched the blinking cursor. The symbol of control I never had before. Olivia's warning echoed in my head. She's broken too. Maybe she was. But I didn't care. I wasn't looking to fix her. I was only making sure she never forgot what it felt like to be studied. And this time, the experiment was mine. I used to think she was unbreakable. Now, I could see the cracks. It began with small things, the way her laughter lingered a little too long, the way her eyes flickered before every smile. She was performing again, but this time not for a study. This time, it was to survive. We were sitting in a quiet cafe after a long meeting. She had suggested it. I had agreed, part curiosity, part strategy. "Do you ever miss the old days?" she asked suddenly, stirring her coffee, though it was already cold. "Miss. That's a strong word for something that nearly destroyed me." Shoulders tensed. "I didn't mean it like that. I just meant, before everything went wrong? Before your experiment?" She winced. "You make it sound so cruel." "It was," she sighed. "You're still angry." "Anger fades," I said. "What stays is the lesson." For a moment she didn't speak. Then she whispered, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't done it?" I leaned back, watching her. "You mean, if you'd chosen love instead of curiosity?" She met my gaze. "Maybe both weren't meant to exist together." I smiled faintly. "You sound like someone trying to justify regret." Her lips trembled. "Maybe I am." Silence filled the space between us, heavy and sharp. Then she said softly, "You probably heard about what happened after you left." I raised an eyebrow. "Rumors, maybe." I didn't care enough to check. "Well," she said with a brittle laugh, "someone exposed my research. The department called it unethically using real relationships as data. I lost everything. Job offers, reputation, friends, all gone." I stayed quiet. She looked up, eyes glistening. "You could at least pretend to feel bad." "I could," I said calmly, "but that would make me a liar too." Her breath caught. "So you really hate me that much?" I tilted my head. "I don't hate you, Amelia. Hate means I still feel something. I'm just aware of what you are." She blinked fast, forcing a smile. "You've changed." "You keep saying that," I said, "but maybe you're just seeing me clearly for the first time." She looked down at her hands. "I didn't expect karma to hit this hard." "Karma doesn't hit," I said. "It waits." Her laugh broke halfway through. "You really have become cold." "Coldness," I said, "is warmth denied too many times." She stared at me for a long moment. "Sometimes I wish I never met you." I leaned closer, eyes locked on hers. "You're not the only one." She froze, words dying in her throat. The sound of clinking cups filled the silence that followed. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. "Do you enjoy this? Watching me fall apart?" "No," I said. "I enjoy watching you understand what it feels like." She wiped at her eyes, quickly pretending to laugh again. "You really haven't forgiven me." "Forgiveness is overrated," I said. "People use it to feel superior." "I'm just being honest." "Honest or cruel? Depends on the perspective." She studied me for a long time. "You think you're in control now, don't you?" I smiled. "Control? No, I just stopped being your subject." Her lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, she looked smaller, uncertain. Then she whispered, "You're hurting me." "Good," I said softly. "That means you can still feel something." Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "You're not the man I used to know." "You're right," I said. You never really knew me. The silence stretched again, long, suffocating. She looked around, desperate for distraction, for air. I leaned back, finishing my drink. You used to measure emotions, I said. Did you ever record what regret sounds like? Her breath hitched. Why are you doing this? Because you did it first. She looked at me, and for a fleeting second, I almost saw the girl I once loved, the one who laughed at midnight, who made me believe in something real. Almost I stood up to leave. She whispered behind me, Liam. I paused, but didn't turn. Was any of it real? She asked. I took a deep breath. It was, I said quietly, until you made it data. Her soft sob followed me out the door. As I stepped into the cold evening air, I caught my reflection in the glass window's steady eyes, calm smile, and I realized something. I had become her. Careful, calculated, controlled. But the difference was Guy knew I was playing the game, and she didn't anymore. It started subtly in extra text here, a late-night call there. Amelia was slipping back into my orbit, and I let her. Hey, she said one night over the phone, her voice quiet, shaky. Can I talk to you? You already are, I replied. She gave a weak laugh. Right, things have been rough. I can't trust anyone lately. That's karma, I said before softening my tone. But sure, tell me. He hesitated. The media's bringing it up again. My project, the experiment. Someone leaked new details. I forced my voice to sound surprised. Really? I thought that story was buried. So did I, she sighed. But someone must hate me enough to keep it alive. Someone did. That someone was me. Behind the calm mask, I had already sent the file screenshots. Documents, her old research notes to a journalist friend. I'd used an anonymous account. No trace back to me. It was perfect. Cruel, but perfect. I just feel like everything I touch turns to dust, she murmured. Even the people I cared about? Maybe it's time you stopped trying to fix the past, I said. Just live with it. I can't, she whispered. You don't understand how it feels to lose everything. Oh, I do, I said quietly. Better than anyone. There was silence. Then a faint sniffle. You still sound angry. I'm not angry, I lied. Just realistic. She let out a shaky breath. You're the only person who still talks to me like this. I'm sure that's not true. It is, she insisted. Everyone else either pities me or avoids me. You make me feel normal. That word hit harder than it should have. Over the next few weeks, she kept calling, sometimes for advice, sometimes for comfort, sometimes just to hear someone breathe on the other end, and I answered every time. Because the more she leaned on me, the deeper the hook sank. At work, I'd see her eyes light up when I entered a room. At events, she'd linger near me, waiting for acknowledgement. I'd give her just enough warmth to keep her close, but never enough to heal her. You've really changed, she said one evening during a business dinner. You used to be intense. Now I'm just focused, I said, smiling faintly. Focused on what? Balance. She looked puzzled. Between what? Justice and mercy, I said. She laughed softly, not realizing how literal I meant it. That night, I sent another anonymous tip to a gossip page. The story spread Amelia's name trending again, this time with words like deception, betrayal, ethics violation. Her downfall was complete, and yet when I saw her the next morning, eyes red, makeup barely hiding the damage, something twisted inside me. Rough night, I asked. Don't, she whispered. I can't take sympathy right now. Who said it was sympathy? Her eyes filled. You're cruel? I didn't respond, because she was right. Later that week, Mason dropped by my office. He didn't knock. You've been busy, he said, closing the door. Work never stops, he said without looking up. I'm not talking about work. I froze. What do you mean? He sat down across from me, eyes steady. You think I don't know what's going on? Amelia's collapse, the timing, your sudden reappearance, it's not coincidence. I sighed. Mason cut it out, he said sharply. You're playing God, Liam. You're feeding her poison and calling it closure. She deserves it. No one deserves this, he snapped. Revenge doesn't heal you. It just replaces your wounds with hers. I looked away. Maybe that's enough. He leaned forward. Is it? Look at you. You don't sleep, you barely eat, and you spend your nights plotting emails and leaks. You think that's power? I clenched my jaw. You weren't there when she laughed at me. When I was nothing but her experiment. He shook his head. You're still her experiment, man. She's just not the one running it anymore. His words landed like a punch. After he left, I sat there in silence, the city lights flickering against the glass wall. My reflection stared back, confident, controlled. Empty. Amelia texted that night. Thank you for being here. I don't know what I'd do without you. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, You'll be fine. You always are. Then I turned off my phone and stared into the dark. I should have felt victory, satisfaction. But all I felt was noise. The trap had tightened. On her, and maybe on me too. She showed up at my office unannounced. No makeup, no mask, just raw, shaking fury beneath red-rimmed eyes. Liam, she said, voice trembling, we need to talk. I leaned back in my chair, pretending calm. About what? Her fingers gripped the edge of my desk. Don't do that. Don't act like you don't know. I met her eyes. You'll have to be more specific. She threw her phone at me. It slid across the glass table, stopping inches from my hand. On the screen and email thread, my fake anonymous account. The proof. My stomach twisted, but I didn't move. Her voice cracked. You were the leak. I stayed silent. Say something. She shouted, tears streaming down her face. Wasn't my pain enough? You destroyed what was left of me. I took a slow breath. You studied pain, I said quietly. I just gave you a case study. Her lips parted, disbelief flickering across her face. You're proud of this? No, I said flatly. I'm done with it. She stepped closer. You wanted revenge? Fine. You got it. My career is over. My reputation's ruined. I can't walk into a room without people whispering. But tell me, Liam, does that make you feel better? I forced a smirk. Maybe. She shook her head. No, it doesn't. You look empty. Something in her tone cut deeper than I expected. Don't analyze me, I muttered. I can't help it, she said softly. It's what I do. Or at least, it's what I used to do before you took it all away. The silence between us thickened years of memories collapsing into the space of a breath. Finally, she whispered, I loved you, you know. I laughed under my breath. Don't lie to me again. I'm not lying. Her voice broke. I loved you in my own broken way. I just didn't know how to show it. You were the only thing that ever felt real to me. Her words hit harder than I wanted them to. My chest tightened. Stop, I said. You don't get to rewrite history. She wiped her tears. You think I don't know what I did? I hurt you. I destroyed the only person who saw something good in me. I'll regret that every day. Regret doesn't fix anything. I know, she whispered. But neither does revenge. Her gaze lingered on me sad, knowing exhausted. You became me, Liam. I looked away. Don't flatter yourself. It's not flattery, she said. It's tragedy. Something inside me cracked, but I didn't let it show. I forced myself to look detached, composed. Are you finished? I asked. She nodded slowly. Yeah. I just needed to see it for myself. The man I broke finally learned how to break others. Her voice softened to a whisper. Congratulations, Liam. You won. Then she turned and walked out. No last glance. No words left to weaponize. Just the sound of her heels fading down the hall. When the door clicked shut, I exhaled, expecting relief. It didn't come. I sat there, staring at her phone, still lying on my desk. Her tears had stained the screen. Victory should have felt sweet. But all I tasted was Ash. Mason called later that night. You okay? Define okay, I muttered. He sighed. She knows, doesn't she? She confronted me, and I told her the truth. There was silence on the line. Then Mason said quietly, "And did it help?" I didn't answer. "You know," he said, "the thing about revenge, it's never about balance. It's about trying to bleed out the same pain you felt. But it never works. It just spreads." "I didn't do this for balance," I said. "I did it for justice." "And why do you sound like you just buried someone?" The line went dead before I could respond. I leaned back in my chair, the city lights flickering outside. Somewhere below, people laughed, lived, moved on. But me? I was stuck in the same loop. Same room, same guilt, same emptiness. I told myself she deserved it, that everything I'd done was fair. But the truth was heavier. I became exactly what I hated. A manipulator. A liar. A destroyer wearing a calm smile. And in that quiet, for the first time since this began, I realized I hadn't beaten Amelia. I'd only become her. The days after Amelia's confrontation were quiet, too quiet. No calls. No messages. No headlines. Just silence. It should have felt peaceful, but instead, felt like standing in the aftermath of an explosion. Everything still, but ruined. I stopped going out. The office felt hollow. My apartment echoed with things unsaid. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her crying, prying those words. I loved you in my own broken way. I wanted to hate her again. It was easier when I hated her. Instead, I just felt empty. Mason called a few times. I ignored him. He'd just say, "I told you so." On the third day, I caught my reflection in the mirror while brushing my teeth. Same face, same eyes. But something was wrong. The man looking back wasn't me anymore. His stare was cold, sharp, calculated. "Who are you?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Later that week, Olivia came by uninvited. She stood at the door holding coffee and a look that could slice through walls. "You look like hell," she said. Stepping inside without waiting for permission. "Good morning to you too," I muttered. She glanced around. The place was spotless, too spotless. "You've been cleaning," she noted. That's never a good sign. Maybe I just like order. "No," she said quietly. "You like control. And right now, you've lost both." I gave a humorless smile. "I guess that makes two of us." She sighed, sitting on the edge of my couch. I saw Amelia. My grip on the mug tightened. And she's trying to rebuild. It's not easy. Good for her. "She doesn't hate you," Olivia added softly. I laughed under my breath. "Then she's an idiot. She pities you." That shut me up. Olivia's tone softened. "You punished her, Liam, but who's punishing you?" I didn't respond. She looked at me, eyes steady. "You think revenge is closure, but it's just another form of obsession. You've been living in reaction to her instead of living for yourself." I rubbed my face, feeling the weight under my skin. "You don't understand, Olivia. She used you, lied to you, broke you." She cut in. "Yeah, I know. But tell me, as hurting her brought you peace?" Her question hung in the air like smoke. I stared at the floor. "No," I whispered. She nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time to stop." She stood, grabbing her coat. "Delete whatever you have left. End it for good. Otherwise, this version of you, Thawan, in that mirror, he's all that'll remain." Before I could answer, she left. The door closed with a soft click. For a long time, I just stood there. The apartment felt heavier than ever. Every surface, every corner, carried her ghost. That night, I opened my laptop. The folder was still there, hidden under layers of encryption, like I was guarding treasure instead of trauma. Inside, screenshots. Emails, recordings, proof of every lie, every manipulation. Proof of who she used to be. Proof of who I had become. My finger hovered over the delete key. My heart thudded in my chest. "You've studied pain." "I just gave you a case study." The words echoed in my head, my own words, cruel, detached, empty. I hit delete. One by one, the files vanished. The screen went blank. Then I took my phone, deleted every message, every saved photo. Even the ones where she smiled genuinely, those hurt the most. When it was done, I sat back and stared at the empty desktop. The silence that followed wasn't peace. But it wasn't chaos either. It was something in between. I walked to the mirror again. Same reflection, same eyes. But this time the man looking back seemed tired, human. Maybe this is what healing looks like, I whispered. Not winning, not losing, just letting go. My phone buzzed. Mason again. I didn't pick up. Instead, I stepped onto the balcony. The city was alive below. Cars moving, lights flickering, people laughing. Life kept going, whether I did or not. The wind hit my face, sharp and cold. For the first time in months, I breathed deeply without bitterness. Without pretending, the game was over. But so was the part of me that thought revenge could fix pain. What remained was uncertain, but at least it was mine. It had been months since I last saw her. Life moved on, or at least it pretended to. The headlines died down. The gossip faded. Amelia vanished. One afternoon, Mason dropped by my office holding his phone. You might want to see this, he said. I glanced up. What is it this time? Another scandal? He shook his head. No, the opposite. On his screen was a news article. Local foundation partners with volunteer psychologists to support trauma victims in Kenya. And there she was, Amelia, smiling, sunburned, dressed simply. A completely different woman. I stared at the photo for a long time. She really left, I said quietly. Yeah, Mason replied. Sold her apartment. Closed her accounts. Disappeared from everything. I nodded slowly. Good for her. You don't sound sure. I'm not. He sat down across from me. You still hate her? I hesitated. I want to, but it's exhausting. Mason gave a small laugh. Hate always is. He leaned forward. You know, I think you both destroyed each other. But maybe that's how healing starts. I frowned. That's a poetic way to describe mutual damage. Sometimes destruction clears space for something better, he said. You burned her world. She burned yours. Maybe that's the balance. I didn't respond. I couldn't. That night I found myself walking the streets without purpose. The city had changed, new cafes. New lights, but one place still looked the same. The corner cafe where we first met. The bell above the door jingled softly when I walked in. Same smell of coffee and rain-soaked pavement. Same old wooden tables. I sat in the far corner. The waitress smiled politely. The usual? I nodded. Black. No sugar. As I waited, I caught a reflection in the window. My reflection. I looked older, calmer, maybe even sadder. When the coffee came, I opened my leather journal. The pages were filled with fragments, half-finished thoughts, unsent letters, questions that never found answers. I wrote slowly, my pen scraping the paper. She played with my heart. I played with her fate. And now, we both live with what we created. The words looked heavier on the page, and they sounded in my head. Mason's voice echoed in memory. You both destroyed each other. But maybe that's how healing starts. Maybe he was right. I closed my eyes and remembered that first day, her laugh. The way she tilted her head when she spoke. How she'd said, You look like someone who's afraid to trust. Maybe she was right about that too. The cafe door opened behind me. A couple walked in, laughing softly. Something about them, the way she looked at him, brought a small, unfamiliar smile to my face. Excuse me, the waitress said gently. Do you need anything else? I shook my head. Just the check. She walked away. I looked back down at the journal. The ink was still wet. The sentence gleamed under the dim light. I whispered it again, almost to myself. She played with my heart. I played with her fate. The words no longer sounded like anger. They sounded like truth. I thought about Amelia, where she was now. Maybe she was standing under some foreign sky helping people heal. Maybe she was finally learning what love really meant. And maybe, in my own way, I was learning too. When Mason called later that evening, I picked up. So, he asked, "Did you see it?" I did. "And how do you feel?" I took a breath. Lighter. He laughed softly. "That's new." "Yeah," I said, smiling faintly. "I guess it is." There was a pause. Then Mason said, "Maybe you should write about it." "Not the pain. The lesson." "I already did," I said, looking at my journal. He chuckled. "Of course you did." After we hung up, I lingered for a while. Watching the streetlights flicker through the rain, the world kept moving. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to chase or control it. I left the cafe, journal tucked under my arm. The night air was cool, the rain soft against my face. As I walked, I thought of Amelia, her laughter, her tears, her lessons, her scars. Maybe we were never meant to heal together. Maybe we were meant to break, learn, and build new versions of ourselves, dash separately. And as I disappeared into the crowd, I whispered one last time, not with bitterness, but with quiet understanding. She played with my heart. I played with her fate. And now, we both live with what we created. The auditorium lights dimmed, leaving a soft glow over the stage. I stood behind the podium, staring at the faces of 200 young professionals. Notebooks open, waiting. My heart was steady. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't speaking from pain. I was speaking from understanding. I took a breath and began. When I was younger, I said I believed strength meant control. I thought if I could manage how people saw me, how they felt about me, I'd never be hurt again. A quiet murmur spread through the crowd. I smiled faintly. But control, I continued, is just another kind of prison. The more you hold on, the more you lose yourself. A hand went up in the second row. A woman with short dark hair asked, "So, what changed you?" I hesitated. "Losing everything I thought mattered," I said softly. "And realizing the person I hated most was just a reflection of who I'd become." A few heads nodded. Someone in the back whispered, "That's deep." I leaned on the podium, my tone steady but calm. "Revenge feels powerful," I said. "It gives you fire, purpose, control, until you realize it only makes you the mirror of your enemy." A long silence followed, the kind that sinks deep. Then someone asked, "So how do you stop it?" "You don't," I said honestly. "You outgrow it." After gentle, understanding rippled through the room, I continued. "You start by forgiving. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You stop trying to win old battles and start building new meanings." A man in the front row leaned forward. "So you don't regret it? The revenge?" I met his gaze. "I regret who I had to become to make it happen." For a moment, the room was still. The words hung there uncomfortably honest. Then I smiled slightly. "But regret isn't a chain, it's a reminder." The applause started slow, then grew, filling the space. When it faded, I concluded quietly. We're all experiments in becoming better people. Sometimes, the lesson costs us everything. But it's still worth learning. I stepped away from the microphone. The host shook my hand, thanking me. Cameras flashed, people smiled, a few asked for photos. I played along, but my mind was far away. Outside, the air was crisp. The evening sky painted with soft blues and silver clouds. I loosened my tie and walked toward the parking lot, feeling strangely light. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I frowned, unlocking it. "Thank you for teaching me what love really means." No name. Just the message. I froze, my breath catching. It couldn't be anyone else for a long moment. I stood there, the city lights blurring behind the glass of my phone. I typed nothing back. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I smiled, not in triumph, not in satisfaction, but in quiet peace. Because finally, after everything, the game was over. I looked up at the night sky. A faint breeze brushed my face, carrying the scent of rain. Somewhere, I imagined her standing under another sky, maybe smiling too. Mason's words drifted back to me. "You both destroyed each other." But maybe that's how healing starts. Healing wasn't something that happened all at once. Maybe it came in moments like this, unexpected, small, but real. I got into my car and sat for a while before starting the engine. My reflection stared back from the windshield older, quieter, but finally at peace. I whispered to myself, revenge feels powerful. Until you realize it only makes you the mirror of your enemy. And this time, the words didn't sound like guilt or pain. They sounded like freedom. The headlights cut through the night as I drove away, leaving the auditorium behind. The road stretched open ahead, empty but full of possibility. As I merged into traffic, I turned off my phone. No notifications, no ghosts, no echoes of what was, just silence. And in that silence, I realized something simple, something pure, maybe love, even broken, still teaches you how to start again. I laughed quietly, shaking my head. "Thank you, Amelia," I said to no one. Then I pressed the accelerator and disappeared into the night. Not as a victim, not as an avenger, but as a man who had finally learned the price of control.